Magandang day to each and everyone, especially to you, Sir Beer, and to my fellow classmates. I am Vicente Carmina S., and today I will discuss about the Sigmund Freud's ethical framework. But before that, let us know first who is Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalysis. He was born on May 6, 1856 in Freiburg, in Moravia, and came from a Jewish family, and he died on September 23, 1939 in London after a long battle with cancer of the jaw. So Sigmund Freud's ethical framework is often associated with his psychoanalytic theory, which emphasizes the importance of the unconscious mind, early childhood experiences, and the influence of internal tribes. So Freud's approach in ethics isn't based on tradition, a moral values, but focuses on the psychological processes that underlie from our actions as a human and in our decisions. So there are many aspects of Freud's ethical framework, where he developed theories about the unconscious mind and the structure of the human psyche. So it consists of the id, ego, and the superego. So let us know first, what is id? Id is the most primitive part of the psyche, representing instinctual drives, desires, and impulses. So it operates based on the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification without considering reality, morality, or consequences. So it controls our instinct and wants, like if we are hungry, thirsty, or a desire for a comfort. So for example, a child crying loudly until fed, ignoring everything else. So in this example, the child is crying because he has the instant gratification of hunger, where his mother must be feed him immediately because the child is not yet capable of considering patience, reasoning, or social norms. So next is the ego. Ego is the rational and conscious part of the psyche that mediates its desires, the superego's moral values, and reality. So it operates based on the reality principle, aiming to satisfy the id's needs in socially acceptable ways, where ego makes us smart and make a realistic decisions, also help us to balance what we want or the id, what's right or the superego, and what's possible in real life. So, for example, you decide to eat only one slice of cake instead of the whole thing to balance desire with health. So, in this example, you think or you decide that you eat a slice of cake instead of the whole because you think what is good for your health. The last one is the superego. Superego is like the conscious in our mind. It represents moral standards, ideals, and societal rules, where it knows what is right and right is wrong because it follows the rules and values that we have learned from our parents and society. Superego pushes us to be the best and to do right thing, but it can make us feel guilty if we don't live up to its high standards. So for example, feeling guilty for lying to a friend even though it is a minor lie. So in this example, superego might make you feel bad or guilty about it because lying is wrong. So that's all about the structure of human psyche, the id, ego, and superego.
Repressions. Freud described repressions as a psychological defense mechanism that involves blocking acceptable desires, impulses, memories, and thoughts from the unconscious mind. The purpose of repressions is to minimize feelings of guilt and anxiety. Repressions can lead to greater anxiety over time. One of the examples of repressions is that accident. When a person who experienced a traumatic accident, he or she might not remember the details of the events due to the emotional distress it caused. Kumbaga, nagkaroon siya ng amnesia, that's why hindi niya maalala kung ano yung nag-happen sa kanya during the accidents. Another example of repressions is that a child who witnessed a violent act might post down the memory and not recall it later life. Kumbaga nagkaroon siya ng trauma, that's why ayaw niya na pag-usapan kung ano man yung nag-happen sa kanya during the violence. The next one is that moral development. According to Sigmund Freud, moral development occurs when an individual's selfish desires are repressed and replaced by the values of critical socializing agents in one's life. For instance, parents. Freud theories this process involved the involvement of the ego in balancing the needs and tensions between the id and the superego. The example of moral development is that someone might follow the law because they don't want to suffer the consequences of breaking it. This is a self-serving motivations. But the superego also encourages the person to follow the law because society has declared this action good.
Good day everyone, my name is Elnet Bitarosa and today I'm going to discuss about the theories of Sigmund Freud about psychosexual development and ethics. Psychosexual development and ethics. Freud's theories of psychosexual stages of development, oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital, suggest that ethical behaviors are shaped by the experiences and conflicts people face during these stages. He believed unresolved conflicts could lead to neurotic behaviors in adulthood, affecting one's ethical and moral outlook. The oral stage is the first stage of Sigmund Freud's theory of psychosexual development occurring from birth until approximately 18 months. During the oral stage, a baby libido or innate pleasure-seeking energy is focused on the mouth. The example, the baby derives immense satisfaction from engaging in oral activities such as sucking, biting, breastfeeding, and chewing various objects, satisfying their inherent desires. During the oral stages, the baby gets much satisfaction from putting all sorts of things in its mouth to satisfy the libido. An example of this stage is an infant who gains pleasure from sucking on a pacifier or bottle. This gives them satisfaction and helps them learn about their environment. Freud linked oral behaviors to specific personality types in adulthood. For example, a person fixated on the oral stage may engage in excessive eating, smoking, nail biting, or becoming overly talkative, symbolizing the continued fulfillment of oral needs. We see oral personalities around us such as smokers, nail biters, overeaters, and thumbsuckers. Oral personalities engage in such oral behaviors, particularly when under stress. Okay, the next one is anal stage. Anal stage is the second stage of psychosexual development, happens between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old. During the anal stage, the libido becomes focused on the anus and the child derives great pleasure from defecating. An example of this stage would be a child who takes pleasure in controlling and releasing their bowels. Freud's believe this type of conflict tends to come to a head in potty training, in which adults impose restrictions on when and where the child can defecate. Defecate. The nature of this first conflict with authority can determine the child's future relationship with all forms of authority. Anal fixation. Unresolved conflicts of or issues during this stage can lead to problems later on, such as excessive cleanliness, stubbornness, or a need for control. The third is the phallic stage. This period is marked by the child's libido or desire, focusing on the genitals as the primary source of pleasure. In this stage, children become increasingly aware of their bodies, exhibiting a heightened interest in their own genitals and those of the opposite sex. Additionally, their understanding of anatomical sex differences begins to form, sparking a complex mixture of emotions, erotic attractions, rivalry, or jealousy, a collective term complex in boys and the Electra complex in girls. These periods of conflict is resolved through identification, where children start adopting the characteristic of their same-sex parent. Phallic stage fixation. Freud theories that unresolved conflicts during this stage could potentially lead to future issues such as sexual dysfunction, problems with gender identity, or difficulties in forming relationships. Next is latency stage. The latency stage is the fourth stage of psychosexual development, spanning 6 years to puberty. The libido is dormant during this stage, and no further psychosexual development occurs. Latence means hidden. In this stage, Freud believed sexual impulses are repressed, leading to a period of relative calm. During this stage, children's sexual impulses become suppressed. Our libido is dormant, and no further psychosexual development occurs. Example, the focus shifts to other pursuits such as education, social relationship, and other skills necessary for successful adult life. Children focus on developing social and intellectual skills, including schools, friendships, hobbies, instead of on sexual or romantic interests. Latency stage fixation is, according to Freud, unresolved conflicts or issues during this stage can lead to problems later on, such as difficulty expressing emotion or forming healthy relationships. For instance, if a child fails to make strong social connection or falls behind academically during this stage, they may struggle with feelings in inadequacy, insecurity, and social isolation in adulthood. Similarly, if a child falls behind academically during this stage, perhaps struggling with reading, writing, or math skills, they might feel less confident than their peers, leading to insecurity or inadequacy. Okay, the last stage is the genital stage. The genital stage is the fifth and final phase of Freud's psychosexual development theory, beginning at the puberty and lasting in adulthood. During this stage, the libido re-emerges after its latent period, and it is directed towards peers of the other sex, marking the onset of mature adult sexuality. During this stage, individuals start to become sexually mature and begin to explore their sexual feelings and desires more maturely and responsibly. This period marks the onset of romantic and sexual emotions, leading to the formation of intimate relationship. Sexual instinct is directed to heterosexual pleasure rather than self-pleasure like during the phallic stage. Is um example of this stage would be teenager who begins to experience such sexual attraction and begins to explore their sexuality. As they mature physically, they develop deeper romantic interest and sexual attractions toward others. These feelings may lead to their first romantic relationship or perhaps a crush on peer. Teenager might also learn about sexual education and understand the importance of consent and safe sex. And that's all for my report. Thank you and God bless.
Good day, everyone. I am Luella Joanna M. Molina from BTVTED FSM 3A, and today I'm going to discuss about the Sigmund Freud Ethical Love Framework. Sigmund Freud ideas on love can be interpreted through the lens of ethics, focusing on the complexities of human relationships. So here's a framework for ethical love based on Sigmund Freud theories. First is mutual respect and consent. Ethical love requires that both partners respect each other's autonomy and decisions. Consent is essential, particularly regarding sexual relationships. So, for example, a couple agrees to establish boundaries around intimacy, ensuring that both partners feel comfortable and respected in their choices. Next is awareness of repression. Freud believed that repressed feelings could lead to psychological issues. Ethical love encouraged individuals to confront and discuss repressed emotions to strengthen the relationship. So, for example, one partner recognizes feelings of jealousy stemming from childhood experiences and discuss them with their partner, fostering understanding rather than secrecy. And the third is ego and superego in romantic love. Freud suggested that the ego and superego play critical roles in regulating desires and ethical behaviors. Ethical love in Freud views could be understood as a relationship where individuals balance personal desires with the moral consideration of what is socially acceptable and respectful. So, for example, in a romantic relationship, ethical love could manifest as a person respecting their partner's feelings and choosing not to manipulate or dominate, but instead finding a balance between personal desire and ethical respect for the other's needs and rights. So that is the ethical love framework of Sigmund Freud.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joyce Cesar Diva, and I'm the last reporter for this group. My topic for this morning is Justice Firm Work. The Justice Framework is a conceptual or transactional approach to understanding the addressing issue for fairness, accountability, and moral integrity in a given context. It can apply to various fields has a law, governments, education, or even organizational practices. Below is an outline of key components of a general justice framework. Justice framework as combination of law and social context. As you can see, based in the moral rules, good as well in as individual rights, as called the social contact. So, yung justice framework is yan yung mga kailangan ng hustisya. And that ini-include din natin yung law, law include common, positive and neutral types. Yan yung mga meron yan yung mga shape modern system. Yan yung mga criminal, civil, international justice, meron din social justice concept. Yan yung mga ano ng justice frameworks. So fairness and equality and morality, yan siya is ano siya sa justice frameworks. So tayo, for example, yung sa abong, 'di ba? Need yun ng mga justice ng mga estudyante. Kasi alam po natin na hindi alam po natin na ano yung kailangan natin mag-ingat doon, pero sana naman tayo as a parents man ng mga student na is namatay, is need talaga natin ng justice kahit accident po yun yung for me, for example. So yun lang po, that's all for my report. Thank you.